the lesson? You tell me. Anybody? All right. Coming up next, we have a young man who I'm so excited to have. He's a friend of mine. I love knowing this guy from around Indianapolis. We've done some comedy together. He's an absolute treat, and I cannot wait to hear what story he has put together for you guys tonight. Please put your hands together for Sean Hayes.
Young man, that was so sweet. Thank you. So I was 8 in 1977, unlike Val, who was 1983. And in 1977, like the fall of 1977, we lived in Verdugo Hills, which is the foothills of Los Angeles. If you've heard of Burbank or Glendale or Pasadena, it's kind of above there. And during that time, we lived at the end of this little cul-de-sac, which is kind of surrounded by some trees and stuff. It was kind of a little secluded cul-de-sac. It was really nice, fun place to play as a kid and enjoy. And my dad would work nights at a restaurant. So he was working this one night late. He was a general manager at a restaurant. And it was like a movie. It was like windy and scary and like storming, which, it never rains in California, but it was this night. And there was a knock at the door. And my sister, who was like 3 in her wisdom, ran to the door and opened it. And my stepmom was right behind her, so she immediately closed the door, why is someone at our door at night, knocking on it. And when she went to close it, she saw the guy was wearing gloves. So there was guy was wearing gloves. She turned on the light. She saw curly hair, and he was wearing a police or security guard uniform. It was all very weird. And then she turned on the light and she's like, what do you want? What are you doing? We're in here. And he rattled off some sentence about being in security and here to check on things and see how you're doing and blah, 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 something, right? So what you need to know about 1977 Verdugo Hills, hillside area in California is that there was a hillside strangler who was on the loose. Yes. Mm-hmm. And they had just found a body next to the Verdugo Hills park where I would have my summer day camp, in this ditch. They'd found a woman strangled and murdered there. And then when they finally caught the hillside strangler, which there were 2 of them, it turns out he had dark curly hair, he would wear a security guard outfit, he wore gloves, and he would do this long, weird sentence about being a security guard. So, so the hillside strangler knocked on our door. What kind of friends do you have? Yes, that was here. So we moved from that house. And in the next house we lived in, this was also in the foothills, a little bit further up in the foothills. And it was on the favorite house, my most favorite house I lived in as a kid. It was called Daisy Lane, and Daisy Lane looked like a driveway. If you blinked, you would have missed it. It was a small little street surrounded by woods. Directly across from our house was this giant mansion that was tucked in by trees. It must have been the mansion on the hill at the time, and then all these houses built around it. And our house was a little bit lower than the street, but that mansion was, again, one of those scary things you'd see in a movie where the kids are don't go there. And our house was a little bit lower than the street because, again, we were on a hill. And our driveway went even further down, so as we went down the driveway, it was even further down. So our house was propped up a little bit above the driveway, which was a small house. It was a 1-bedroom house, but they had this addition that they put on that us kids lived in, and it had a big playroom, and then they made 2 little rooms in the playroom, that held a twin bed and a dresser, small rooms. My room was on the side where the driveway was, and then my aunt, who was just a couple years older than me, her bedroom was on the yard side. And then my brother and sister shared bunk beds in the giant playroom, and the playroom was 20 by 20, whatever, it was huge. And we had a door on that house that went out to the backyard. And then one night, just kind of freaked my family out one day. I was sitting in the bathroom like any good 9, 10-year-old would do, and I took something out of the trash, and I burnt it on the hot heater coil in the bathroom. Big 9-year-old boys do. And it made this weird smell, and my family was like, what is that smell? So we're all standing in the hallway what is this? And in lieu of being beat by my father, I thought, I should lie. And it worked out, so they thought we had a ghost. So they thought the house was haunted, and that we had a ghost, and that's why the house smelled funny, right? And again, I was a kid, and I was dramatic, and I thought my father would beat me and stuff sometimes. So I would lay in bed at night thinking, if I think hard enough, I could kill myself with my mind. Yeah, I believed in the power of the mind. At 8, I was like, the mind is super powerful, watch what I can do. So I would lay in bed and I would think like constantly about like, oh, just die, I just want to die, I just want to die. But I also thought in my tiny little window that was like 20 feet above the driveway, I would imagine a man was going to come and like shoot me through the window and hit me in the leg, and then I'd have to go to school with crutches. So I wanted to die to prove a point to my parents, but I wanted to live and have crutches so people at school saw that I was around. What's a girl to do? So here I am on stage talking to people. So I would have these thoughts, right? And I would just think really hard. And then one night, like I thought it was working because I was sitting there and I was thinking like, you're gonna die. That man's gonna shoot you in the leg, but you're gonna think yourself to death first. And then like visions of things started to roll through my head, kind of like on the Willy Wonka on that boat, you know. We have no earthly way of knowing where we're going. Like that was happening like in my head, like it was decaying animals and skull and crossbones and poison and like all this stuff. And then I was like, guns, like all this stuff I kept seeing. And I was like, holy fuck, this is working, you know? Like I need to stop. Like, no, I don't want to die. Just shoot me in the leg, you know? I want to live. But then as I was thinking that, trying to stop myself from like committing suicide with my mind, suddenly there was this loud crash and bang and growling and scratching at the fucking back door to the backyard. So I thought, oh, this is like all the disasters in one. Right? Where's that man? Shoot the monster. And then my aunt was screaming because her bedroom was right by that door. So she's screaming for my dad, and they're screaming and yelling and chaos and just, it was the scariest fucking thing. So I immediately went into a panic, and I used to sleep back then with my head under a pillow, then all my sheets over my pillow, so I buried myself. Every now and then I'd wake up and I'd be backwards and my head would be at the feet, and I'd be like, I can't get out. So I was like buried between like the bed and the wall, just like tucked in, and I was just frozen solid. Like I don't know what to fucking do. Like, and by this time the whole family had made it to the living room. Of course they didn't come for me. They don't care. If I died, they would notice. The people at school after I got shot in the leg and I had crutches, they would notice. So I'm in this panic, and I'm just like, I gotta get out of here. Like, the rest of the family's at the front of the yard. So I jump out of bed as quickly as I can, run to the front, and then pass the fuck out. Because I guess all the blood had rushed out of my head after waking up. It was very dramatic, which is funny. I was gonna end the story here and just like walk out. But you're probably wanting to know, what was the monster? It was a dog. Somehow a dog out in our backyard. And that backyard was really nice. Like it had an empty like koi pond that I used to play G.I. Joes and Barbie. And then it had levels. It had a tetherball court in it and stuff. It was nice. And in the backyard had a skunk. So that at night it was the skunk's backyard. And really it was our backyard. But I love that house. But anyway, so it was a dog. Yeah, that was the end of it. That's my scary story. That like suicide, my mind didn't work.
For Sean Hayes, the master manifester. I mean, thank God he's not that good at it. Honestly. That's so the funniest and saddest thing I've ever heard all wrapped up in the fucking mind. Just die by suicide via your brain.